Oh my god. Anybody moving slowly is dead to this gun, man. The Breda M1935 is a brand new Battlefield 5 weapon that you can unlock with this week's Tides of War challenge, or if you're watching this video a little bit later, you should be able to purchase this weapon for company coin in the Battlefield 5 armory. Fun fact, this weapon is also the very first burst fire weapon ever made. Today we'll be reviewing the weapon, talking about how to unlock it, what the specializations you should pick to get the best performance out of it, and overall how it fares compared to what else is available for the assault class. This is an assault class weapon, and it's the very first burst fire weapon in Battlefield 5, so it's at least bringing something interesting to the game. Unlocking this weapon is very straightforward. You just play one round of any game mode, then after that you can earn 35,000 score. After you accomplish that, all you have to do is kill or get an assist in killing 30 different enemies, and you'll have the gun. Alternatively, you can break off and go for the top line there. That will allow you to progress through it by deploying smokes, building fortifications, and resupplying people with bandages or reviving them, which is pretty easy. Honestly, I completed both of the top and bottom tiers at relatively the same pace. And although Squad Conquest is featured as one of the premier game modes for this week, it's probably not the fastest way to complete these assignments. Getting 35,000 score is going to be a lot easier on breakthrough modes or some smaller Conquest format modes with 64 players. Just more kills, more opportunities to resupply, capture points, all that kind of stuff, as opposed to Squad Conquest. Now, when specializing this weapon, I chose to go full right side tree, but I would like to play around with the left side tree in the future and see if there's any viability to it. But I do think the right side tree is probably going to be the most inviting and easiest way to use this weapon. You've got quick aim, then you've got ported barrel to help with your recoil control. Then the next one actually reduces the time in between burst fire, so you have less downtime. In fact, if you time it correctly, you can fire this weapon almost like it's fully automatic, so it increases your rate of fire from about 450 to 540, making it a little bit more palatable. And then the last one gives you better accuracy while aimed and stationary. Of course, depending on your playstyle, you could also swap to the left side at the very end there if you like to move a lot more while aiming and shooting. Now, let's get right into the burst fire meta of this weapon. It shoots 4-round bursts, and it does enough to kill somebody from start to finish with all 4 rounds. So if you land those shots perfectly, either full body shots and close quarter damage, or if you go for body shots and a headshot mixture, you can drop people insanely fast. It also does significantly more damage per shot than your standard fully automatic assault rifle. So you start off at 30 damage per shot as opposed to 25 damage per shot. This gives you a little bit of leeway. So if you hit a leg shot in there, something that's not going to do 100% damage, you can still get that 4-shot burst fire kill. And you can even get that 4-shot burst fire kill all the way out to around 50 meters. Start mixing headshots in there, which you certainly will want to do with this weapon, and you can extend that range even further. It's a solid weapon and feels reliable once you get your aim down. It's also got a fast muzzle velocity of 700 meters per second, which means if a target's running perpendicular to you, sprinting across the map, you should be able to aim almost straight on with them and land a lot of those burst fire shots. I was having an absolute blast hitting people just trying to run by or run across an open area with this gun. They were not making it. Like, this gun with 2 bursts at medium range is a very, very consistent, reliable kill. However, funneling people into a corridor or a tight space where they don't have a lot of maneuverability and you can really zero in those shots, you will have an absolute blast with this weapon. It will take out a lot of people. Starting your aim off at the chest and letting it finish on an enemy's head will basically net you a guaranteed burst fire kill. And all of a sudden, if you're just a 4-round burst away from getting a kill, now you can start dropping a lot of people with a single mag. I was actually really surprised how many multi-kills I was able to get with a single magazine in this weapon. I generally haven't enjoyed burst fire weapon balance that much in previous Battlefield games, especially like BF3 and BF4. I didn't think the burst fire mechanics were all that worthwhile for the most part in terms of how they balance their weapons. But here in Battlefield 5, the Breda really does feel like a worthwhile burst fire gun. It's fun to use. It's semi-versatile. I'll talk about that a little bit right now, actually, is it doesn't have great hip fire. If somebody surprises you in CQB and you start needing to hip fire somebody down, I mean, you can do it, but it's not as good as a lot of other fully automatic assault rifles out there. You could try and buff that a little bit with the specialization tree, but ultimately it doesn't feel like a gun that is your bread and butter, all situations, pretty decent weapon. Close quarter, fast moving targets is where this weapon suffers from, unless you're just some sort of aimbot god and you're never going to miss any of your shots. It's going to be harder to use there because, well, ultimately its rate of fire is not that fast. Close quarters, the other assault rifles are still going to be 4-shot kills just like this one, so your higher damage isn't really going to give you that big of an advantage. That's where this weapon starts to equalize a bit. But take it out to medium, long range, all of a sudden the Breda is just at its sweet spot. It's at the ultimate range, and targets are going to be like, what the hell? How did that guy drop me so stinking fast? So pick this weapon as sort of a medium range assault rifle, ultimately. I wouldn't say it's a DMR replacement. DMRs can be a bit more accurate. At further ranges, this gun does tend to suffer. It's certainly not a counter to snipers. You can put it in semi-auto rate of fire to try and plink headshots at further ranges if you're good at switching between fire modes, but ultimately, if you know or you like the idea of engaging predominantly at medium range targets, which I find is honestly some of the most common engagement distances anyway, then this gun is going to excel really nicely. Is it overpowered? No, I wouldn't say it's overpowered. It's certainly going to surprise some people with how fast you take him down, and if you can get your headshots on, oh my god, is it ridiculous, especially close quarters. Sometimes when you're just shooting for the head, people are like, did that dude just like perfectly burst me down in a second? I need to have time to like react or do anything to him. It's pretty cool. And in that regard, you're probably going to want a higher magnification optic on here. You can use it with anything. You can try it out with iron sights. It's fun and whatnot, but a 3x optic is probably going to be where it's at. You need that accuracy. You want to shoot center mass and let it drift up to the head to get those single burst fire kills. And the 3x is the best for that, unless for whatever reason, again, you really favor irons or you can just see that well with irons. Then I would recommend 3x. The problem is that the irons also, the gun body does obstruct a little bit below you, and so it's going to obstruct your field of view slightly if you're using iron sights as opposed to a 3x optic. Of course, you do suffer from slightly longer ADS speeds when you're switching between iron sights or optical sights. I wish that was communicated a little bit better within the game menu. Like if you're switching between irons or optics, you do slow it down a little bit. Unfortunately, it's not really that well communicated, but you can certainly tell if you get used to iron sights and then switch to a magnified optic. You'll notice things are slightly slower. And of course, going on the right side progression tree will speed up your ADS speed, and that's something that I like to have on just about any weapon if it's an option. So faster ADS speed means faster engagement times, more accurate, more quickly. Like there's just tons of benefits to it. So using 3x in that in combination really negates a lot of that optical, that ADS delay. Now let's talk about the history of this gun just a little bit. It's an Italian-made weapon, but there was really only about 200 of these made for the Italian army in sort of weapon trials, and I believe the Italian variants of this didn't even have the burst fire functionality. So as far as seeing these on the battlefields of World War II, probably not, at least not in the form that we're seeing them in game. The burst fire versions of these were actually sold to the Costa Rican government, and there's about 800 of them made in total. So really not a whole lot of these weapons made in general, probably not seen a lot of combat in actual World War II, but here they are in game. DICE and the Battlefield games in general are big fans of using lots of prototype weapons that may have never actually even seen combat in the first place. And as far as Battlefield 5 goes, I'm glad that DICE chose to add this weapon to the game because it's interesting. It brings a different style of gameplay. It's actually fun to use. It's not totally garbage as a burst fire weapon. I think they've done a good job of balancing it overall. So I'd highly recommend unlocking this weapon if you have access to the Tides of War right now, or you can just get it with company coin for a little bit later on and try it out. Enjoy it. Play the assault class, tear people up, go for those body and headshot combos to down people in one burst. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap signing off.